So Anonymous asks, what do you think about this thought process? I have hand X. What size should I bet to get called by worse or make better fold, not caring about being balanced? This thought process is inherently wrong. The hands that are in the middle of both players' ranges, in general, especially if you're in position, you will lose money by, you'll make a bet and you'll get only better hands to call and worse hands to fold. In terms of it doesn't really matter when you're making a bluff. The bet size is more important when you've got a value hand. And then the bluffs should be balanced into that bet size according to what you think the continuing range will be, and whether you want those bluffs to be either blocking or can outdraw that continuing range, outdraw that calling range. So like if you have hand X, like you shouldn't just bet, right? Betting should usually be the second kind of thought about what you should be doing, right? A lot of the time when you've got a hand, you need to think about how strong is this hand at showdown right now? Should I try and get this hand to showdown? How far am I away from showdown? So the furthest you can be away from showdown is preflop, and then obviously as the streets go on, you get closer and closer to showdown. When you're on the river, you really care about how often you're going to win at showdown. So even if you can only win, say, 10% of the time at showdown, that's an extra 10% of the pot that you're risking by making a bluff, okay? I'll do some quick math to show you guys what's going on. If you're thinking about making a bluff, it's not just enough to make better hands fold, because when your opponent does call, you end up losing more if you make a very big bet. So when you make a very big bet, you're essentially risking more to win the same size. So if the pot size is 1, the amount that you risk, say, is your bet size, which is S. And in terms of risk to reward ratios, you're going to be risking your bet to win. So this is your risk to win the reward, which is the current pot, and you're going to win back your bet. This is the reward. So your risk reward ratio is just going to be S divided by 1 plus S. And in fact, this risk to reward ratio is the alpha value. So alpha is equal to S over 1 plus S. Now, if your hand has some showdown value, your risk increases, because your risk is going to be your bet plus your showdown value. Let's call that value K. So say, for example, you win the pot 10% of the time when you check, K would be 0.1. So your risk is now going to be your bet plus your showdown value, but you end up with the same reward. So your opponent, instead of folding at, say, alpha, they have to now fold at S plus K over 1 plus S. So they have to fold at a higher frequency in order for you to break even on your bluff. When you're making a bluff and you've got a little bit of showdown value, you're also risking that showdown value by making a bluff, okay? You're not just risking a bet, you're also risking a showdown value as well. Yeah, in terms of betting what size to get called by worse, you can actually do this a fair amount on the river when you're out of position. We'll just have a look at this check down line. So check, check, check. So this is a 4-bet pot, but you can see there's a variety of different bet sizes that are used. You've got the half pot here, the quarter pot here, and the 10th pot here, and then you've got check. And in general, the hands which bet half pot are going to be slightly stronger than the hands which bet quarter pot, which are going to be slightly stronger than the hands which bet 10th pot. And you can do this when you're out of position. And you can do this well when you're out of position on the river, because there's not an extra street for your opponent to be able to bluff you off your hand. There's only this street now. If you bet a 10th of the pot, right, your opponent only can just go all in, and it's the worst that they can do to you. And they can't go all in too often, because you can just call with your bluff catches. So if you've got a weak hand, like here, you've got this top pair 5-4 of clubs, you can bet a 10th of the pot. When you bet a 10th of the pot, you're trying to get called by ace high. But also, on the other hand, like, you're comparing it to either betting a bigger size or you're comparing it to checking. If your opponent has a hand that's stronger than you, they're going to be betting all in anyway. So you don't actually lose that much by betting this 10th of the pot to try and get called by ace high, because if you checked, if your opponent has a stronger hand or a worse hand, they're going to go all in and you're going to be in a shit spot anyway. So you might as well try and get that extra 10th of the pot out of ace high. So that's why, like, a hand like 5-4 can bet a 10th of the pot on the river here out of position, because you're comparing it to the other options. You're comparing it to checking. What is my EV of betting? How is that compared to the EV of checking? Here, if I bet a 10th of the pot, ace high can call me. I can get called by ace king high. But if I check, like, I don't get that bet from ace king high, and now, like, all of the middle pair, pocket pair, below top pair, all that kind of stuff that would have raised my 10th pot bet all in are still going to be betting when I check. You can do a little bit more when you're out of position in these kind of check down lines. It takes a bit of study to be able to tease that out. It applies a lot. Studying some check down lines is going to be pretty good, because a lot of players play very poorly in check down lines. They use too few sizes on the river. If they're not using enough bet size on the river, they're shortchanging themselves in terms of how they play those check down lines.